So I want to talk about some financial terms before we just dive in, right? And I realize that for some people this is going to be total review, but it's important if you're new to tracking your finances. These are some terms you want to know. We'll be using them probably throughout the course, and they really just help create a good framework for looking at your money. So I'm going to run through the terms and the definitions here. All right, so first term, it's a little small, I realize. It says asset, right? And so what is an asset? Well, you've heard it tossed around, I'm sure, but my definition is basically it's just something of value. Now, there are lots of different ways to, there are a lot of different definitions you could use. I went for something that is very simple. You can argue that there are better definitions, that's fine. These are the ones that I'm going with. So an asset, it's just something of value. Next, we have liability. I apologize, that text is small. And for a liability, the definition is just something you owe, right? So you have on one side, you have an asset, something of value. On the other side, a liability, something you owe. And I'm going to introduce the next one here, and that is your net worth. Not surprisingly, the net worth is a function of those two previous words, and it is basically your assets minus your liabilities, and that is your net worth. Now, I will point out it's possible to have a negative net worth, right? That would be if you owe more money than you actually have to your name and all, so if your liabilities are greater than your assets, you can have a negative net worth. If you're in that position, I would encourage you to make one of your first financial goals is to try and get to a positive net worth, or at least a zero net worth. All right, the next term is appreciation. This is an increase in the value of an asset over time. So now we can kind of layer these words together and we can talk about if an asset is appreciating or not. That is, you have something of value and you expect its value to keep increasing. That would be an appreciating asset. Conversely, we have depreciation, and not surprisingly, that's just a decrease in value of an asset over time. And so a classic depreciating asset would be a car, right? Let's say you go to the car dealership and you throw down $35,000 for a brand new car, you pay cash, you walk off the lot. That car has value. It is an asset to you. It was worth $35,000 to you. You just paid it. But as soon as you drive off the lot, the value of that car goes down, and every year it's going to go down unless it's some rare antique and you're an expert at automotive collection. The value of your car is going to go down, and it is a depreciating asset. Just to work off this example again, if you took out a loan to buy that car, that loan is a liability to you, and so all those pieces of information, all those definitions and pieces of information there all play together when just doing a simple transaction like buying a new vehicle. Although I guess you could argue that buying a new vehicle isn't necessarily always simple when you get talking to the various salespeople at car dealerships. All right, I'm going to move on, and I'm going to just kind of talk now a little bit about what is Banktivity and what is it not, because those are both important things to know, and I want to be clear about that for people that are not familiar with our software. They're not familiar with this app. I want to cover what some of these details. So Banktivity is a financial manager, right? It helps you put all your accounts in one place. It lets you track and analyze your finances. You can generate reports. You can create budgets. It can help you with tax planning by generating reports that help you understand where your income came from and where your expenses went to. So that's largely what Banktivity is, right? It is this this powerful, all-encompassing finance app. But what is it not? Well, this won't be a surprise to many people. but it is not for Windows, right? We are a Mac only shop, Mac and iOS. We only make software for Mac and iOS. We have no plans to expand to Windows anytime soon, nor do we have plans to expand to Android anytime soon. We like the Mac and iOS ecosystem. It's fun to develop for it. When we're having fun, we tend to like our jobs more and do a better job. And they're great platforms. I mean, Apple is innovating with their hardware in pretty remarkable ways, and it's a fun platform to be on. All right, Banktivity is not a peer-to-peer money transfer app. You cannot send, money to people online. Now, there's one little asterisk there, and that Banktivity does have a bill pay feature where you can, send people money, usually as a check, but it is not something like Venmo or PayPal where you're sending money back and forth and that sort of thing. Just two little points before we get back on to talking about, before we get moving on to subscription. So some people ask me, like, why would I want to use Banktivity? And that kind of leads me always to looking at sort of these themes on financial management and themes on fiscal responsibility. And basically, I think of everybody as being somewhere on their financial journey, right? So some people might be retired and they're towards the end of their journey, and they have different needs than somebody who might just recently have graduated college and has maybe started their job and they're about to get married, or maybe they're thinking of buying a new house or something like that. They're going to have very different financial needs and financial goals compared to that person who's retired. And then, of course, there are people in the middle and all in between. But sort of no matter where you are on your financial journey, Banktivity can help you plot your course to help you get to where you want to go. It's very flexible and it's very powerful. Okay, I'm going to move on now. That's just kind of more of the course intro on, why Banktivity. And let's jump in and talk about the Banktivity subscription. For those that have been with us for a long time, this is partially new. We've had an optional subscription for a long time, and now we have kind of flipped all the way over to being a subscription-based app. But it has, sometimes I'll say, it's a subscription with a twist, and that is we've tried to make it very flexible to accommodate a lot of different requirements that our customers have. And, is it going to be perfect for everybody? No, but I would like to cover, how it all works, because I think that once you understand it and stuff, you'll see that there's a lot of good options there. Okay, so at kind of the broadest level, there's 3 plans to choose from with the new Banktivity: bronze, silver, gold. Each plan unlocks different features, if you will. Now, we will talk about those plans in more detail, but I just wanted to put that umbrella out there that there are these 3 plans, because we're gonna dive back into what each one of those plans are and what it means to change plans and that sort of things. But before we go on to that, I want to point out something that's important, I think, to everybody. When they hear that finance app is going subscription, I think people get scared. They're like, wait a minute. It means if I stop paying you, I don't have access to my financial data, right? And so I want to point out that no, that is not the case. If you buy the new Banktivity one time, you subscribe for a year, and then 9 months later you say, you know what, I'm not into this. I don't, this isn't working for me, or I don't think the subscription is worth it. You can cancel your subscription. You keep getting access to your data at whatever subscription tier, whatever subscription plan you originally purchased. Further, this is a huge point. You will keep getting updates to Banktivity with a canceled subscription. As long as you have paid us once and you aren't paying us anymore, that is fine. You can keep getting updates. You'll keep getting new features, you'll get bug fixes, you'll get new versions that support the recent operating systems. Now, I will throw in an asterisk here that's important, and just in full disclosure, at some point, we probably will release a new feature that requires an active subscription. And I'll talk about, there are several features now that would require an active subscription. But this is important. If you buy once, your data is unlocked at whatever level you bought at indefinitely, and you keep getting updates. So I think this is a good selling point for some people that like to do everything manually. They can purchase once at whatever tier makes sense for them. The app, it essentially works like as if we sold the software how we used to, and it wasn't subscription based. Okay, so let's talk about what you get when you keep your subscription active, and that is every year, your credit card gets billed, and we get money so that we can pay our staff and support and everybody and keep the lights on. So with an active subscription, I'm going to cover all the different things that you get under each tier. And so let's just start with the first, direct access. If you have an active subscription, you get our direct access connected service. That allows you to connect and download transactions from, it's 14,000 different banks or something like that. There are a bunch international banks that are supported, although I'm well aware that there is a big gap right now for the UK and EU where direct access does not connect. We are working on adding support for that, but that's not going to be later until significantly later in the year. So anyways, with a active subscription, you get direct access. You can also connect your banks using Direct Connect and NoFX if you prefer. That's just another option. I will point out this technology is getting really old. This is technically a protocol. Banks are continually dropping it. And so, it is there for some of the banks that it does work with. It works really well. But the writing is on the wall. The banks are moving away from this. With an active subscription, this is all sort of what you get at the lowest level. And we'll go, at the bronze plan, and each plan is additive. So I'll get into silver and gold in a minute. But also at the bronze plan, you get Cloud Sync. Cloud Sync is our technology that allows you to keep all of your finances in sync across multiple devices. So if you want to share your finances with your partner across 2 Macs, you can use our Cloud Sync to do that. If you want to track your finances on a Mac, a phone, iPad, and 2 other Macs, it allows you to do that. And so that is also one of our connected services that's required with an active subscription. The other thing you get is technical support. And this is a big one. Technical support costs us a lot of money. And so, we're essentially, if you want to be able to reach out to us and try and have our Banktivity experts help you solve things, you are going to need you are going to need a subscription to do that. Now, we haven't put any iron gates now. Like, people come to our website for help, we help them, but it's not available for us. So it's some technical support versions are phased. Full support is something that the services that you active subscription. All right, silver tier. Real in our enter in an address for a home, down an estimate of. This is something that you get at the silver. We also at the gold exchange rate. With an active subscription under those 3 plans. All right, so those were the connected services you have for our 3 different plans. And now I'm going to talk about what you get with the 3 different plans that aren't connected services. And so these are sort of the features that are just unlocked based on what plan you get. And these are the features that work whether or not you are maintaining that subscription in an active state or not. So at the bronze level, you get, you can set up credit card accounts, checking accounts, savings accounts. You can set up budgets. You can use our new goals feature to set up goals for building an emergency fund, paying down credit card debt, saving for something, we call it just save for something big. You get access to the calendar, and there's more. I'm not going to cover every little thing here. It's better formatted on our website. So if you go to our website, banktivity.com, there's an option there to see all the details of the plans as well. Silver, the big thing that happens when you go with Silver is you get basically support for investment accounts, right? And with the investment accounts, you also get access to setting up real estate accounts for tracking the value of your home, or if you own other types of real estate. And then along those same lines, as we then, you also get access to the retirement goals and education goals. And the reason why those are all bundled together is very few people have a retirement goal that also don't have an investment account. So those are all kind of together. And then when you go to gold, you essentially get to kind of the pro features, and that is tracking accounts in multiple currencies, and you also get access to our check printing feature. Okay, so I want to cover some examples because I know that a lot of people have had questions about this. So let's say that you buy silver your first year. And 9 months into the subscription, you say, hey, you know what? I'm just going to downgrade to bronze. I don't need downloading stock quotes and that sort of thing. So this is what would happen. You retain full support for investment and real estate accounts and all of the reports and goals that are based upon those types of accounts. That means you could add additional investment accounts. Even though you're on bronze, you can enter in your transactions. You can enter in stock prices manually, but you would lose direct access, would stop working for the investment accounts, but it would keep working for all the other accounts that you have. You would keep your cloud sync would work fine, and of course you can also get access to our technical support. Okay, and then there's another example. So here's gold downgrading to bronze. Let's run through this quick example. This one, I've had a lot of questions about. People have said, hey, I enter all my transactions manually. I import files from the bank, manually. I download a QIF file and I import it, or a CSV file and I import it. But I really like the check printing feature and I print a lot of checks. I don't use your cloud sync or anything like that, but I want to be able to talk to your tech support if I have questions. We recommend for this type of case, you sign up at gold. After some number of months, schedule the downgrade to bronze, and then once you move into the bronze stage, you will retain check printing and multi-currency support indefinitely, because you've paid for that. Like once you've paid for that gold plan once, you get all the features, all the non-connected features are sort of unlocked indefinitely. You would then just lose the services, the connected services that were available at silver and gold, and that was the downloading of stock quotes, the real estate price valuation, and downloading of the various currency exchange rates. And then I just have one more to go through here, and that is, okay, well, what if I've been using your app for a long time and I never need help and I just enter everything in by hand, but I want all the bells and whistles. What's my best option? Subscribe to Gold once, choose to have it not renew, 6 months in, 9 months in, doesn't really matter when, 3 months in. Choose to have it not renew, and then all those features from the gold level will be unlocked indefinitely, and you just will lose the connected services. Now, there's one more, a couple more points that I just want to cover about the subscription. Those are my 3 examples. This has come up some, and I want to let people know, yes, so this brings up the use of the Banktivity ID. Sorry about that, I was expecting a different slide. Your subscription is tied to one Banktivity ID. This has some implications. It means you can share your Banktivity ID with your spouse, and you only have to pay once. You have to use, maintain your one subscription, and you both can use Banktivity, whether separately or whether you track your finances separately or you want to track them together. It also means, let's say that you track finances for your own household, your own family, but you also track finances for a small business, or maybe it's a nonprofit. You could create another document that has all your data and just use the same Banktivity ID, and then again, you only have to pay the subscription once, and you can maintain 2 sets of different financial data. We'll get into some of those document scenarios in a minute. This is a feature I wanted to point out. A lot of people have thought, oh, you're moving to subscription only. You're moving to the cloud. Everything is going to be stored in the cloud. And I just want to point out that is not the case. Your data is stored locally, just like it always has been. And that's why next we're going to be talking about documents in this webinar, because documents are the places where all your data is stored. And so no, we have not moved to a cloud-based solution. Now, of course, the time that your data is stored in the cloud is when you use our cloud sync feature, in which case it's fully encrypted and only you can read it. But that, diving deep into cloud sync is going to be for another time. I also want to point out that Banktivity still works offline, even with the subscription. You can be out on the beach, sipping the beverage of your choice, totally disconnected, and doing the offline, managing your finances offline, like editing transactions and entering transactions as much as you want. We do a good job of kind of caching off the state of your subscription and recognize, oh, hey, this person's offline. We don't need to phone home and check the status of their subscription. The one last thing before I actually jump into documents is I do want to point out too that if you were a subscriber of our direct access service, the direct access service was something that we had before we released this new version, you can convert your direct access time into subscription time with the new service. It's a prorated conversion. There's more details about it on our website, but I want to point out that it's not something that we just do automatically. And the reason is we want customers to be able to you know, test out and try the new Banktivity, but without feeling like they have to commit. So we don't just automatically move your time over. You go into the app and you can tell it, hey, I want to convert this time. I want to apply this time. And we'll go over where, I'll cover that in more detail, but I will tell you where it is now in case you're wondering. If you go to the file menu and then choose subscription, and then the next menu down, it'll say view my subscription, and then you'll see the information there. Okay, so let's move on now and let's talk about documents. For a lot of apps on the Mac, there's basically, they store their data in two different ways. There's one set of apps, and you can think of things like photos, music, calendar, where all the data in those apps is just kind of stored for you behind the scenes, hidden away in the system file architecture. You don't ever have to think about it or worry about it. And that works great for those types of apps. But for finance apps, and one of the strengths of Banktivity is we actually allow you to have multiple documents. And so what that means is you can have multiple sets of financial data stored within each document. And so the best way to think of a document is it is just like a document, any other document or file on your computer, like if you use Word or Microsoft Excel. Each time you go and edit a spreadsheet, that spreadsheet in Excel is tied back to some file or some document on your Mac. And it's the exact same case for Banktivity. And the reason why you might want to have multiple documents is because it allows you to track different sets of financial information completely independent from each other. And so what I think of a document is, it's a place to group a set of related accounts. Okay, so now this kind of gets back into subscription and the Banktivity ID, and it's important to note that each document has a single Banktivity ID. So every document, in fact, every document needs to be signed in with a Banktivity ID. Otherwise, we don't know the state of your subscription, because if you'll recall what I was talked about a few minutes ago, is that every subscription is tied to a Banktivity ID. And so it's the same with a document. What this allows you to do is keep one document for your finances. Let's say your family finances. You could have another document that has to do for a business or nonprofit, and then maybe you track finances for another family member. You know, maybe it's your in-laws or elderly parents, or I don't know, or maybe you track your kids' finances separately. Whatever might be your case, I've seen all kinds of people doing all sorts of different things. But these supporting these multiple documents allows you to track sets of accounts and keep them completely independent from each other. And if you are using Banktivity to track finances for the business, the IRS loves it when you keep your business finances separate from your own finances. Before I jump onto this slide, I just want to say one last thing about here. Again, I mentioned that each Banktivity document is signed in with one Banktivity ID. And so in this case here, let's say you are tracking 3 different sets of finances: family, your business, and maybe another family member. You could do all that with just a single Banktivity ID. So I just want to point that out. Now, you could also do it with different Banktivity IDs if you wanted as well. But the app is very robust and flexible in that sense. Okay, now I want to talk just a little bit about a document lifecycle, and this has to do particularly with upgrading from previous versions of Banktivity to new versions. A lot of people, when they get whatever the latest version of Banktivity, they open up an older data file in there. And that is fine. But what it's important to realize what happens is when you do that. So here's a Banktivity 7 file or Banktivity 7 document. That those two terms are synonymous. I just want to point out whether I call it a document or a file, I'm referring to the same thing. And so you import this into the new Banktivity, and what you get out is a brand new document that is formatted to work with the new Banktivity. It will not work with older versions, in fact. But I want to point this out. We also, your original data file is left intact. We don't mess it up. And so what you can, over time, as you have been using Banktivity and going through these major versions, you can end up with multiple older data files. And that's fine. I'm just letting you know that some people have been confused by this, and it's just good to point out. It's also really nice because it means that when you upgrade a file to the new Banktivity, whether this is, currently we're making, we have version 8 shipping, but in the future it's version 9, we don't destroy your original data. So you can always go back if you have some problem, like maybe it's not compatible with your operating system. And so you can fall back to that older file and the older version of our software. So that's just kind of the, the basic document life cycle when you're upgrading from an older version to a new version. I'm going to point out that the new Banktivity can import data from documents going all the way back to Banktivity 5. If you have an older version of Banktivity, what used to be called, for example, iBank 4 or iBank 3, then basically you're going to want to, it's becomes a two-step process. You got to download Banktivity 5 from us, which we can happy to give you the link to do that. You would import your old data into version 5. You wouldn't have to pay for 5 or anything like that. You can do it using it has a built-in free trial, and then that outputs a version 5 file, and then that version 5 file, you can then import that into the new Banktivity. All right, when you're looking for documents on your computer, I want to point this out too. Here is a great way to tell which document belongs to what. So here is a little table of, on the left, we have the version of our app, the version of our software, and then the corresponding file extension, right? So this is helpful if, some people are like, wow, I see like 5 different Banktivity files. I don't know what is what. You can look at the file extensions, and here is the mapping. Once we got to Banktivity 6, you can see that it got standardized, where the corresponding numeric digit at the end corresponds with the version of the app. Okay, let's go into, I'm going to bring up the app and do some demo stuff. Put those slides away. All right, so I have a Banktivity document here that is open. It's called My Finances. This is this sample data that I try and maintain fairly regularly for things like this. And you'll know, so this is one document, and this document is called My Finances. Now, if I hover over this, this is new in Big Sur. Well, the fact that you have to hover is new to Big Sur. It's been, this behavior has been there going way back on Macs. But you'll notice that there is an icon here and a little disclosure button, a little down arrow button. You can click that down arrow button, and you could change the name of your file right here if you wanted to. Similarly, if you hover over it with your mouse and you hold down the command key, you can see exactly where that file is located. This is super helpful if you're wanting to verify that your data is getting backed up. So I'm holding down the command key, I'm clicking, and you can see that this document, My Finances, it's in, my user is ENG, and then it's on my desktop. There are also, so Banktivity tries to do a really good job about always opening your the last open documents. And for the far majority of our customers, they only have one document. They're just tracking their family finances. And so I'm just going to quit Banktivity, and I'm going to relaunch it. And you'll see it opens up the last document. Hooray, and it's right there. And people get very used to this behavior, and it's great. However, several years ago, Apple released some changes to the system. So I'm going to go to System Preferences, and I'm going to go to General. And there's a couple of things here. One is you can now change how many items you want to see in the recent items menu. Okay, so that in our app, it's over here, File, Open Recent. You can see all these different finances, all those different files. If you set this to 0, Banktivity is going to have a harder time reopening the last file. Similarly, you can customize the behavior of what your windows do when you quit apps. Right here, you can say, hey, I want you to close the windows when quitting an app. When you do that, when you turn this on and then quit Banktivity and relaunch it, it doesn't open your window. This is why. You've told the system, hey, I don't want you to reopen the windows. And so because Banktivity uses these documents, it's going to respect those system preferences that you have there. Let's see. Okay, if you open up Banktivity, sorry here. If you open up Banktivity and you don't get a document, I'm gonna see if I can trick it. Oh, there we go, yeah. Sometimes people freak out and they're like, oh my gosh, all my data is gone. Launch Banktivity and there's nothing there. 90% of the time, if not more, you can go to File, Open Recent, choose the document that's correct, and it opens back up. And we discovered why a file might not reopen itself as you would like. So, and just jump here to the desktop. You'll see now I'm just looking at Finder, and there is my Banktivity document. It is called a Banktivity document. It has a size, and it's just like any other file that exists on your Mac. So I just wanted to point out the link between those two names. So one of the other things that you can do at the file level, which is really great, is you can password protect your document. And so I'm going to go here to File, Set Password, and I'll enter in some password. And I'll hit save here in a minute, and the next time I try to open this file, you'll see that you won't be able to see any data until you enter the password. If you have a Mac that supports Touch ID, and it's probably just a matter of time until Apple releases Macs that support Face ID, you can turn on using those biometric authentication options. And then instead of having to enter the password, you would just rest your finger or let it scan your face once that feature is available, and it'll unlock. So I'll just show you. I'm going to save it. I'm going to close this document, and now I'm going to, hey, reopen it, and it's going to say, hey, what's the password? I'm going to try and enter something. Can't remember what it is. So you're essentially locked out. So don't forget your password. I do want to point out that we are not encrypting your data file with password. Like, people could still get access to this file and look at the database and pull your information out of there. So it's not it's password protected, my data file's now fully encrypted, nobody will ever be able to see it without that password. That's not what it does. It basically, it keeps the casual person using your computer from accidentally or on purpose, stumbling upon your finances and being like, oh, look at this person's net worth or whatever whatever their prying eyes are searching for. All right, so that is the documents. Okay, now sorry, I'm looking at, there's one screen on my window that you guys can't see. I can see. Going through some of the chats. Okay. I do, this is the first session. I've covered all the kind of the main material that I've wanted to cover. I am going to try to answer a few questions, but there's hundreds and hundreds of people here, and so I'm definitely not going to be able to answer all of them. So I'm going to kind of look for some that are just relevant to the discussions that we've just been we've had it. Okay, somebody asked, is there a maximum size to a data file? There is no theoretical maximum size. It would be, eventually you could run out of room that how much data your computer can store, but Banktivity won't ever say like, hey, this is just too big. Now, as a, my personal file has, like over the years, I've probably added 30 different accounts, and it's, megabytes, hundreds of megabytes big or something like that. And it's, it's still pretty fast on the new Macs. It's really fast. But as a file gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, some things inevitably will get a little bit slower. But there's no, it's all backed by a database, so it's pretty negligible. Somebody asked about double-clicking the Apple Watch for access to a file. This is great. And the answer is yes, it does support Apple unlocking through Apple Watch. And so if I brought up the dialog again that just allows you to manage the password. I don't actually want to change mine, but if you had chosen to click this here, hey, use Touch ID to unlock your document, and you have your Apple Watch hooked up to work to unlock dialogues on your Mac, you can use it to unlock the dialog on your in Banktivity as well. Use it to unlock that. If you do want to encrypt your data, it's like I said, when you password protect it, it is not encrypting it. If you do want to encrypt your data, the best thing to do is use Apple's file vault. So, this is one of those things like Apple has solved this problem. We're not going to try and solve it as well. And so you can turn on file vault and system preferences, and that'll encrypt, everything on your hard disk. And I think it's a great thing to do. I have it turned on, but don't lose that password. Just pull out a couple of more questions, and I'll try and wrap up at 11:30, and that'll be a 1 full hour, which is what I was aiming for. So it's another 7 minutes. Let's just talk about how to change subscriptions. So I brought that up. To manage your subscription in the app, you go to File, Subscription, View My Subscription, and you'll see here that it says, hey, you're on gold, it's active, and it's going to renew on October 7, 2021, and it's going to renew at silver. And so what this is actually saying is, hey, right now you're on the gold plan, but later this year, when it renews, you're going to downgrade to silver. And if you wanted to change that, you click Manage, and then you can go to change plan. And this works whether you've purchased directly from us or if you've signed up with a subscription through the Mac App Store. I'm also going to point out, at some point someone's going to look at this screen by watching a recording of this video, and it's going to look outdated to them, and that's because we're actually in the process of redoing this screen and pulling out some more information that's going to be helpful for customers now that we've found some of the pain points we're trying to address those. There's a lot of questions. I realized that I missed in my point. My original plan was to say, like, I can't answer questions because there's literally hundreds of them, but I am doing the best I can to just pull out a couple of them. The new version of Banktivity, there's some questions about compatibility. So the new version works on Catalina and Big Sur. So it does not support anything before Catalina. And then, okay, a couple people had questions. I think I got this addressed pretty well. They had questions like, hey, if I have 3 different documents, I manage, my personal finances, a small business, and somebody else's finances, do I need 3 subscriptions? No, you can sign in to each of those documents with your one Banktivity ID that is tied to your one subscription. Now, if your nonprofit was saying, hey, no, we want to buy our own Banktivity subscription because we want it to be totally separate from the finances that you're managing with your subscription, you could buy 2 subscriptions and do that as well. And so there's a lot of flexibility there, but the answer to the question as asked, what do I need 3 different subscriptions for 3 different documents? The answer is no, you don't. You could, but you don't. But if there's some circumstances that you would like to do that, that's not a problem. All right, somebody wants to know, how do I change the Banktivity ID associated with the document? So you can go to File, and when you go to Subscription, there's Banktivity ID. And so this shows what Banktivity ID you're logged in with. And you can go there and log out and log back in now with a different ID. This has caution signs written all over it. Watch out, watch out, watch out, because a lot of things are tied to your Banktivity ID, right? All your accounts that are connected through direct access, your cloud sync as well. And so, don't go doing this unless it's really the right way to be solving some specific problem, and you're sure that it's what you want to be doing. But yeah, it's easy you just sign in and sign out by going to that File menu, Subscription, and then go to the Banktivity ID. So someone said, hey, just to be clear, if I subscribe and then cancel, I keep all the functionality and I get updates, I just forfeit the online connectivity? This is a question by Bill Gord. I won't say the last name, sorry, by Bill. The answer is yes, but by subscribe, right? The definition of subscribe to us is you've paid us some money. It's not I'm going to start the free trial for 15 days and then I'm going to cancel before my credit card gets charged, and then the app works forever and I get free updates. No, it's not. The software is not free. Just to be very clear, you got to pay us once, but then yes, after that you cancel. You keep all the functionality at whatever plan you paid for, right? Because there are some different functionality, different plans, but you will continue to get updates, and you'll just forfeit the online connectivity, what we call the connected services, and tech support. That is the other thing. All the subscriptions are paid for by the year, not by the month. Somebody wants to know, how do I find out what my Banktivity ID is. I forgot to write it down. So here's how you create a new document. You go to File, New Document. And I'm going to hit Create New Document in this window that comes up. This is how you recover a lost Banktivity ID. You can go to, I've used Banktivity before. I'm going to start fresh. It says, hey, Banktivity ID is needed. The best thing to do here is hit lost password and enter in the email you think you used. And when it sends you that email to reset your password, it'll tell you what your Banktivity login is as well. All right, I see there is well, I'm going to jump back to the slides and talk about what's going to come next week. I wish I could answer every one of your questions. I really do. It's like in my nature to really want to try and do that, but we'll be here all day. All right, so I'm going to jump back to these slides and just real briefly, I'm going to talk about what's going on next week. So next week, we're really going to start diving into much more demos of how to use the app, doing different things. This one was a lot more slides than I hope to do each week because I think the demos are more helpful. So next week we're going to dive into accounts, all the different account types in Banktivity, what the different account types mean, the capabilities of the different account types, and that sort of thing. And time permitting, we are also then going to start diving into transactions, right? Splits, transfers, merging transactions, copy paste, just all these things that have to do with transactions, all the different parts of the transactions. Why are our transactions designed the way they are? And so we're going to start that as well next week. I'm not sure if we'll get through both, but we'll just kind of do the best we can. And with that, I'm going to wrap it up. Appreciate everybody for coming today. I'm going to post the next webinar sign up on our website right after this course for people who want to turn around and sign up for next week's. It's go to banktivity.com. You go to the Learn navigation item at the top, and then just choose. I think the first item is the MasterClass, and click that, and that'll take you to the page to register.